Picture this, October 1976. A teacher in Leningrad faces a difficult choice: report the essay and save herself, or protect the 16-year-old student. Her decision would have far-reaching consequences for the student and her family. The student's father would lose his job, and her mother would be fired. The student would have a file that would follow her until the Soviet Union's collapse. The essay was about cultural freedom and democratic ideals. This story shows how fear can turn ordinary people into instruments of destruction. The teacher Vera had taught Russian literature for 17 years. She wasn't political, but loved literature and believed it could open minds. Over the years, she saw the curriculum become increasingly restricted. Certain authors disappeared from the approved reading lists. The space for genuine discussion narrowed year by year. She lived alone after her husband died in 1968. He died from complications related to his service in the Great Patriotic War. She had a modest pension and a small apartment. She had no children, which was why she invested so much in her students. She learned their strengths, weaknesses, dreams, and fears. The school was typical of Soviet institutions in that era. It was a rectangular concrete building with long green corridors. Classrooms smelled of chalk dust and old wood. Propaganda posters reminded students of their duty to the motherland. Approximately 800 students were enrolled, ages 7 through 17. The teaching staff understood their role was to shape proper citizens. In 1976, the Soviet Union was in an era of stagnation. The system ran on inertia, paranoia, and quiet compliance. Survival meant conformity, never praising Western democracy. But Natalia did. Imagine a time later called the era of stagnation. Ideological fervor had cooled. Optimism had frozen. A system ran on inertia, paranoia, and quiet compliance. Millions learned not to ask difficult questions. Dissidents existed, but were rare. Brave souls paid dearly for their courage. Survival meant conformity. Natalia wrote an essay praising Western democracy, a dangerous act. The essay was assigned on October 4th, a Monday, in literature class. Students were to compare Soviet and Western literature, demonstrating understanding of socialist realism and Soviet values. The assignment was given thousands of times across the country. An exercise to reinforce ideology while teaching critical thinking. Most turned in formulaic essays praising Soviet authors, criticizing Western literature for its bourgeois decadence, concluding with paeans to socialist values. Tedious, but safe. Vera had grown accustomed to the mediocrity of Soviet education. Natalia's essay was different from the first paragraph. It began with a quote from John Stuart Mill's On Liberty, a book she shouldn't have had access to quoting in a school essay. The quote spoke of individual freedom and the dangers of tyranny. Natalia constructed an argument that was sophisticated and passionate. True literature could only flourish in conditions of freedom. Restrictions on writers diminished rather than enhanced their work. She cited George Orwell's 1984, a banned book. She wrote with conviction, with genuine passion, with sincere belief. Imagine a time when rock music was a whisper of rebellion, a sound Natalia somehow heard. She wrote of the Beatles' Led Zeppelin music, transcending politics, a cultural poverty. It wasn't just the words, but the tone, a conviction that democracy held something valuable. She believed in democracy in Western culture. Vera read the essay 3 times. Each reading made her hands shake more. She understood what she held ideological deviation. Exposure to forbidden materials, thoughts dangerous enough for serious investigation. Vera understood her options, and neither was good. Report the essay, the official procedure. The teacher's handbook outlined the duty to report anti-state agitation immediately. Failure to report was itself a crime, construed as complicity with consequences. Or she could destroy the essay. Call Natalia in demand she rewrite it acceptably. She could protect her student, give her a chance to grow, to learn caution. But destroying evidence was a risk. What if someone else knew about the essay? What if Natalia had shown it to others, been careless in ways Vera couldn't predict? What if the essay had already been reported? Vera's failure discovered weeks later. Vera had seen what happened to politically unreliable people. Colleagues disappeared. Their names never mentioned again, positions quietly filled by others. Stories of teachers showing sympathy accused of insufficient vigilance. Losing jobs, apartments, passports, ability to live in major cities. Vera was 41 years old, no family to support her if everything fell apart. No connections in the party, no powerful friends to protect her, only her teaching position, small apartment, modest pension, if she retired in good standing. And so, sometime that weekend, Vera faced her difficult decision. The weight of the choice pressed down on her, a burden of responsibility. A decision that would change not only her life, but the life of a student. Imagine teachers losing everything for showing sympathy. Jobs, homes, even their freedom. She was 41 alone, with no powerful friends to protect her. Her teaching job, her apartment, her pension, all at risk. Vera Sokolova made her choice that weekend. She would report the essay. She would protect herself, do her duty, and trust the system. Sleep offered no peace, but there was cold relief in shifting responsibility. On Monday, October 11th, she arrived early at school. She went to the office of Director Lysakov, a man focused on party work. He approached his role with bureaucratic thoroughness, like his housing job. She explained calmly, factually, handing over the essay. His expression shifted from annoyance to fear, disguised as professionalism. "You were right to bring this to me immediately," he said gravely. "This is a serious matter. The girl has been exposed to hostile propaganda." He told Vera to say nothing, to act normal. The matter would be handled. He assured her she had done right, shown Soviet consciousness. Vera taught her classes in a daze. It would be noted favorably. Natalia seemed like any bright 16-year-old unaware of the danger. Vera had set in motion a process that could not be stopped. Director Lysakov wasted no time. He contacted the district party committee. By Tuesday, the report had reached the Regional Education Authority. It also landed at the local KGB office, monitoring threats. By Wednesday afternoon, 2 men in dark suits arrived at the school. They spent 90 minutes in a closed-door meeting with Director Lysakov. Imagine a young woman, her mind ablaze with ideas, unaware of the storm brewing. Her teacher unknowingly had set events in motion that could not be stopped. The director wasted no time reporting the essay to the district party committee. It was also sent to the local security office responsible for ideological threats. By Wednesday, 2 men arrived at the school for a closed-door meeting. The director and party secretary met with them for 90 minutes. On Thursday, October the 14th, she was called out of mathematics class. She was escorted to the director's office and never returned to regular classes. Her account, recorded years later, reveals what happened in that meeting. Partial records that emerged after the collapse also shed light. The 2 men were security officers experienced in identifying ideological threats. They questioned her for 3 hours, that first day, relentlessly. Their approach was not violent, but psychologically sophisticated. They began friendly, suggesting it was a misunderstanding. Where had she gotten the book? Who gave her access to Western broadcasts? Were her parents involved? Did she have friends with dissenting views? 16 years old, she tried to defend her essay on intellectual grounds. She insisted she was a loyal citizen, exploring philosophical questions. The officers were patient, taking notes as she spoke. Then they began to tighten the screws, reminding her of the law. Possessing banned books, listening to Western broadcasts were illegal. Distributing propaganda could punish her and her family. By the end, she was crying, terrified, and confused about what to say. She was warned not to discuss the interrogation with anyone, especially her parents. She went home in shock, her parents alarmed by her late arrival. Imagine a young woman terrified after questioning, unsure of what to say. The officers warned her not to speak of it, especially to her parents. Cooperation would be noted, they said, but obstruction would bring severe consequences. That Thursday, she returned home in shock, burdened by the day's events. Her parents were alarmed at her lateness, but she spoke of trouble at school. She tried to protect them, believing she could resolve the situation with words. That night, around 9 o'clock, a knock echoed on the apartment door. 2 officers stood outside, come to search the family's home. The search took 4 hours, conducted with methodical thoroughness. Every book drawer, closet, and piece of furniture was examined. They sought banned literature, dissident connections, ideological deviation. What they found was modest, yet damning enough for their purposes. A cardboard box held Western books and magazines under the bed. A worn copy of Animal Farm, self-published and bound with thread. 3 issues of Time magazine from 1974 and 1975. A bootleg recording of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. The sound quality was terrible, yet still recognizable. A shortwave radio capable of receiving foreign broadcasts. This was not illegal, but part of a pattern of interest beyond borders. Engineering notebooks from the factory were also found. The notebooks were taken, making him suspect in terms of security. The parents watched the search in growing horror and disbelief. The father tried to explain, but the officers were not interested. They completed their search and inventoried the confiscated items. Imagine a factory worker, 43, a 19-year veteran, his life about to unravel. He wasn't political, just a father wanting comfort for his daughter. He tried to explain the radio, the books, the lack of dissent, but the officers weren't interested. Their search was thorough. He was told to expect questioning. Her job would be reviewed. Their daughter was ordered to the KGB office for an interview. Just past 1 a.m., the family sat amidst the chaos, lives shattered. The daughter confessed everything, the essay, the questions. The mother cried. The father knew this couldn't be explained away. The system had noticed them. Escape seemed impossible now. October 18th. The daughter reported to the KGB office. The interrogation was formal, the statement typed, signed. 5 hours of questioning, repetitive, exhausting, relentless. The officer wanted names, anyone who discussed Western culture. She tried to protect her friends, the librarian being vague. She was 16 and terrified, a disaster of her own making. She gave them enough to create a web of connections. A boy whose father was a translator, foreign publications. A cousin from Estonia, Finnish radio, Western broadcasts. Her father's radio, Western music programs, admissions recorded. Each admission, typed each name, noted each connection, mapped. Cooperation was in her best interest, the interrogator assured. Honesty would make things easier for her and her family. She wasn't arrested, but under investigation for anti-Soviet. Imagine a young woman admitting to listening to Finnish radio. A simple act, yet fraught with peril. Each word, each admission meticulously recorded. The wheels of bureaucracy turn slowly. The interrogator, a master of persuasion, offers false comfort. Cooperation, he assures, is best. Natalia, though not arrested, finds herself under investigation. Her fate hangs in the balance. Dmitry, her father, faces the consequences too. His security clearance is suspended, his career in jeopardy. He is reassigned to manual labor, a humiliating demotion. His life's work seemingly undone. His career is over, his reputation tarnished. He becomes an internal exile in his own workplace. His wife, Elena, suffers a similar fate. She is terminated from her job at the library. No dramatic accusations, just a quiet dismissal. The library must maintain its political standards. By the end of October, the family is economically devastated. Their savings dwindle, hope fades. The unresolved question of Natalia's fate looms large. Could things possibly get worse? They soon learn that they can. In this society, disgrace is a comprehensive social death. Neighbors once friendly now avoid them. Fear and disapproval spread like a disease. The communal kitchen, once a place of warmth, now feels cold and empty when Elena appears. Mothers who once allowed their children to play with Natalia now find excuses to keep them away. Fear, a potent weapon, isolates the family. A chilling reminder of the power of the state. Imagine the weight of suspicion, the crushing isolation. A family torn apart by fear. The father's demotion, a symbol of lost dignity. His years of loyal service, forgotten. The mother's dismissal, a blow to their livelihood. Her skills and experience, rendered worthless. The daughter's uncertain future, a constant worry. Her dreams and aspirations threatened. Picture this, a family's world collapsing, their lives irrevocably altered. The price of a simple act. The interrogator's words echo, "Cooperation is in your best interest," a hollow promise. The library director's discomfort, a sign of the times. Political standards above human compassion. And so, a family's life unravels, a cautionary tale of a society gripped by fear and suspicion. Imagine a community where fear changes everything. The Knitz family, now under scrutiny, faced a chilling isolation. The communal kitchen, once a hub of warmth, now emptied as Elena approached, a stark symbol of their exile. Mothers once eager for their children to play with Natalia suddenly found homework a convenient excuse. It was a mix of fear and disapproval, some afraid of association, others believing in the system's righteousness. Some neighbors feared being linked to a family under investigation, wary of drawing unwanted attention. Others, true believers, felt betrayed by the Knitz' alleged anti-establishment sentiments, a deep offense. Natalia, now isolated, found herself an outcast at school, a consequence of her family's alleged betrayal. Though not expelled, she was exiled within the school, attending classes with problem students, a clear disapproval. Rotating teachers made their disapproval known, a constant reminder of her family's perceived transgressions. Her former friends avoided her in the hallways, the word was out. Natalia was politically unreliable. Association with her was dangerous, a risk no one was willing to take, a chilling effect of the system. Olga, a friend since childhood, tried to maintain their bond, offering encouragement and promises of hope. For 2 weeks, Olga defied the pressure, walking with Natalia, sharing lunch, a beacon of loyalty. But Olga's parents intervened, forbidding further contact her father's job in the city government at stake. Olga cried as she broke the news, forced to obey her parents, a victim of the system's cruel demands. Family survival came before friendship, a harsh reality in the society, a sacrifice for self-preservation. The isolation permeated every aspect of their lives, a systematic erasure from normal society. Dmitry faced a review of his party membership expulsion, looming threatening his job at the factory. Elena's residence permit extension faced bureaucratic hurdles, a hint of forced departure from their home. Natalia's application to the Youth League was rejected, without explanation, a closed door to future opportunities. They were being systematically erased from normal life, a slow and deliberate campaign of social destruction. No crime committed yet, they were squeezed out through 1,000 small cruelties, each justified, each defensible. Each act contributed to a comprehensive campaign, a social and economic destruction masked as justice. Vera Sokolova continued her duties teaching grading, but she could not escape the knowledge of her actions. She had seen Natalia's empty desk, a constant reminder of the consequences of her choices. Imagine a life systematically erased 1,000 small cruelties. No crime committed yet squeezed out by justified actions. A campaign of social and economic destruction unfolded. Vera taught, graded, but couldn't escape what she'd done. Natalia's empty seat whispers of the Kuznets family. Her decisions set it in motion. She felt she had no choice, required to report her own life at risk otherwise. Not her essay, Natalia's Choice, a 16-year-old's folly. Not responsible proper procedures, Western propaganda's fault. But guilt gnawed, disrupting sleep, shadowing days. Thinking of Natalia, worrying about criminal charges. The weight of her decision, a physical presence. In early November, a brave, futile act, meeting with the committee secretary about the case. Natalia, an excellent student, youthful indiscretion. Re-education, bringing her back into the fold. The party secretary listened, politely thanked her input. Factors considered, complexity, understood, measures taken. She did the correct thing. Sympathy is unreliability. Intervention accomplished nothing. Position more precarious. Too much concern interpreted as suspicious. Never spoke of it again. Guilt, a constant companion. On November 8, 1976, investigation concluded. Decision by KGB Party Committee Educational Authorities. Natalia would not face criminal charges. Imagine a teacher's concern could be seen as suspicious. She never spoke of the case again. Guilt became her constant companion. Picture this. November 8, 1976. The investigation into the young woman was officially concluded. The decision came from the district office after consulting educational authorities. The young woman would not face criminal charges. She was only 16. The Soviet Union avoided prosecuting minors unless the offense was severe. The investigation found no evidence of a dissident network. Only a single essay and some forbidden books. But her academic future was destroyed. She was expelled from school number 47, marked with ideological unreliability. Any application for higher education would be flagged and denied. Her dream of University of Literature was finished before her 16th birthday. She was assigned to a technical school to learn industrial sewing, a path to a textile factory making uniforms or cheap clothing. This was not a suggestion, but a directive. Education was planned by the state. Once designated as politically problematic options, narrowed dramatically. The notation in her file would follow her forever. She could not be trusted. Someone who deviated from proper thinking, denied opportunities. For the man and woman, the consequences were equally permanent. The man remained at the plant, never reinstated to his engineering position. He spent 14 years in low-level roles watching others rise. His party membership was restored, an empty gesture. The woman could not find equivalent work after being fired. She found a part-time position at a state warehouse, poorly compensated. Their standard of living declined sharply. No more luxuries. They shopped at the cheapest stores and wore their clothes until they fell apart. They lived with the anxiety of destitution. Their apartment was safe for now. Imagine a state warehouse, the only source of income for a struggling family. The family's modest comfort sharply declined. Luxuries vanished. Restaurant meals, theater tickets, all became distant memories. They shopped at the cheapest stores, clothes worn until threadbare. Anxiety gnawed. One decision could bring utter destitution. Their apartment, a fragile sanctuary threatened by permit reviews. They remained ghosts in their own city, marginalized and forgotten. The full truth emerged years later, after the Soviet collapse. Natalia finally told her story free from fear at last. She married, had children, and saw a changed, yet imperfect Russia. Vera Sokova retired, living quietly, haunted by her past choice. In 1997, she confessed, revealing her impossible choice. She wept, questioning if she would make the same choice again. In that system, there were no good options, only self-preservation. Natalia's story, a common tragedy in Soviet history. A 16-year-old girl punished for honesty in a society of conformity. Her teacher, not a monster, but a frightened woman trying to survive. A slow destruction of dreams played out over years.